Remember we told you that Israel and Netanyahu propped up Hamas? For years, Netanyahu propped up Hamas. Now it's blowing up in our faces. Here's what the quote from him is. Anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support bolstering Hamas and transferring money to Hamas. That's what Netanyahu told his Likud party's Knesset members in March of 2019. This is part of our strategy.
Now,
that's right.
I thought the liberal goal was a two-state solution, and I had no idea that they have been working against this actively by supporting a terrorist group.
So here's the latest. From Business Insider, Israel drove suitcases stuffed with cash into Gaza to keep Hamas in power.
Great job. Great job. Great job. Mr. Security.
Israel tacitly encouraged Hamas to stay in power, according to the New York Times. In some cases, Israel's support was more obvious. Israel's security forces would help escort millions of funds into Gaza, helping Hamas.
Oh, did their donations match that of Iran?
And now Israeli officials, Kurt, are facing a backlash after years of Prime Minister Benjamin Bibi Netanyahu quietly allowing Hamas to remain in power.
He wasn't quiet. He said he did it.
Yeah, it wasn't quiet. But reporting in the New York Times has revealed that Netanyahu's government was more hands-on about helping Hamas. They helped a Qatari diplomat bring suitcases of cash into Gaza. So do you now see the game that's being played? Now, if Cornel West was here, he'd call me a Trumper for saying this, but it's so obvious.
Now, Brother Netanyahu did not know.
So they helped a Qatari diplomat bring suitcases of cash into Gaza, indirectly boosting the militant organization, according to the report. The calculus, the Times reported on Sunday, citing Israel officials, Netanyahu's critics, and the man's own reported statements, the calculus was to keep Hamas strong enough to counteract the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, allowing Netanyahu to avoid a two-state peace solution and keep both sides weak.
Great job.
Israeli security officials got it wrong. They didn't think Hamas was capable or even interested in launching a large attack against the Jewish state. Wow. Really? Well, I bet they did.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, did they get it wrong?
I think that's exactly what they wanted, which is why they let suitcases full of cash go to them and pretended they didn't notice them building up for an attack on October 7th. And you know what? I didn't really know much about Palestine or Israel or any of this stuff until this.
Yeah, me too.
Until this. And now I know so much more than I ever even knew there was to know about Israel-Palestine. It's kind of stunning. I didn't know that this just didn't start 5 minutes ago. I know about the blockade. I know about the occupation. I know about the Nakba. I know about this going all the way back to the 1800s. I know about all this stuff now that I didn't have any idea about. And I also know that Israel and Netanyahu never wanted a real peace solution, that they always wanted to wipe the Palestinians out of that land because they want that land. I also found out that there's unbelievably $500 billion worth of gas and oil that's involved underneath that land and just off the shore. And that's another reason why they want to get the... So if it was just about Gaza and Hamas, why is Israel and the IDF in the West Bank terrorizing those people? It's because it's not just about Hamas and Gaza. They're using Hamas as an excuse. That's what this is about. So to keep Hamas propped up, Netanyahu's government worked with Qatari to keep the money flowing. Israel knew that Qatar was supporting Hamas, but didn't oppose the payments and even lobbied American lawmakers not to sanction Qatar.
I think Netanyahu, because when it becomes dictatorial, like how it's been there, I guess, with all this stacking and the right-wing extreme lunatics really get to set the stage, I think he did screw up, because why would we be allowed to know any of this from these sources? That's why I lean towards... I'm sure people knew this was going to be a disaster, and I'll bet that it fell on deaf ears. Like, no, this is good.
No,
I know what I'm doing.
We're always been able to do whatever we want.
Security over here.
That's right.
Because if it was like the whole system in on this plan, like, why are they throwing him under the bus to this degree? The guy who's been so useful for the last 20 years.
Well, Kurt, in 2018, Netanyahu's administration came up with a plan. As part of a peace agreement with Hamas, Qatar would bring millions into Gaza to distribute to Gazan families. Israeli security officials would meet with a Qatari diplomat at the border between Israel and Jordan. They would then drive him past the border crossing into Gaza. Though the money was meant for Gazan civilians, Western intelligence determined that Hamas was taking money from the funds to use themselves. The propped-up peace lasted until October 7th, when Hamas fighters launched a terror attack across the Israeli border, completely as Israel's government and Netanyahu knew they were going to do, because they had a blueprint of the plan that Hamas had drawn up to do it.
It's aspirational.
So you're being played. You're being played by this, that Israel was taken off guard. You're being played by that. Just like you're being played that we were taken off guard by the Osama bin Laden crashing planes into the World Trade Center. We were not taken off guard by that. They
were, certain people.
Americans were, but not the people who battered. Dick Cheney wasn't taken off guard by that.
Bibi Netanyahu wasn't either.
I was at dinner with someone last night, vehemently saying that it doesn't make any sense. Why would they blow up Building 7? I don't agree. Why? And I go, are you kidding me? Well, that's where the SEC's office were. That's one idea. Why do you think the plane hit the part of the Pentagon where they were trying to figure out where the $2 trillion went? These are all just coinky-dinkies. And never before or since has a building fallen into its own footprint, a steel building from a fire, especially one that wasn't hit by a plane.
Do they understand? Honestly, because I didn't understand there was even really a separate building for many years.
If I told you who that person was, it would blow your mind. I'm not going to.
Would it?
It would.
Okay.
It would.
Is this Kyle? Were you out with Kyle?
I was out with Kyle Kalinske.
You blew my fucking mind.
Getting your hair blonde?
We were out. I was out getting my hair streaked.
At Bohemian Grove.
The guy knows a good dye place.
They're all, it's no chemicals. They do it all with natural, right down the street on Ventura here. Anyway, so this headline, when I saw this headline, Israel drove suitcases stuffed with cash into Gaza to keep Hamas in power. What a chump you are.
A little bit of hang glider money?
Yeah. Russ, you got to be shocked by this, huh?
Like yourself, and I think like a lot of people, even us in this space, this has been quite an education. I think a lot of us have kind of had a crash course in Israeli-Palestinian affairs. And really, what I believe it was Elon Pape who said, the greatest propaganda feat that Israel accomplished is convincing people that this is complicated. It's actually the simplest thing in the world.
Yeah, a lot of stuff they say is complicated. Turns out it's not at all complicated.
Yeah.
It's not at all. If you look at the map, if you look at the map of the increasing settlements over decades, the decreasing Palestinian population and territory over decades, it's very clear this has been a long-term plan to do what there is actually a Hebrew term for this, establishing facts in the field. It's basically the same as better to ask forgiveness than permission. They have just had a long-term goal of driving these people out, making it a fait accompli, and then making the world wring their hands, say, God, the situation is so complicated, or like genius Cenk Uygur, they're fighting over their invisible sky god. Yeah, that's what it's about, Cenk.
Yeah, remember that when he tweeted out the Israelis and Palestinians are fighting over a sky god?
Yeah, no, they're fighting over very tangible earth land.
Yeah, they're fighting over the Gaza Strip and the West Bank and the Golan Heights. That's what they want.
Natural gas
and oil. It's the oldest trick in the book. It's not about a sky god. They're using the pretext. Anyway, there it is. Israel drove suitcases stuffed with cash into Gaza to keep Hamas in power. And why?
That's it.
So, and once you know why Bibi Netanyahu wanted to prop up and fund Hamas, then you know the rest of the story. You know who the real terrorists are. The real terrorists are the occupiers. Who are the occupiers? The occupier is Israel, this ethno-state.
But it keeps them safe.
It keeps them safe.
How will Jews be safe without Israel?
Yeah.
Except, that one day. And
except they're safe everywhere around the world.
Except Israel.
Right,
the most dangerous place to be.
It's a dangerous place to be a Jew is in Israel.
Not
That's right.
Harvard, as it turns out.
That's
but
right.
in fact, Israel.
Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, I'll stick with New York. No, when this erupted, Lenny Bruce said it best. If you're from New York, you're Jewish. If you aren't, you're not. When this broke out, I started hearing these things, these cliches from Zionists that I haven't heard since I was a child, and it's just amazing to me. They're still saying the same shit. And one of the things they say is, we have no partner for peace. And there are a lot of connotations to that, right? These people are savage. They're barbaric. Here are these poor, civilized, decent, most moral army in the world, Israelis, holding out their hand. They want to sit down and discuss, but there's no partner on the other side. Meanwhile, this is what's really happening. They're propping up Hamas so that they can maintain that pretense. We would make peace. We would love to make peace, but there's no partner. That's why they had to do this, because the Palestinian Authority had good international standing, and they had to undermine its political power in order to maintain this fiction that they have no partner for peace. They've been saying that since I was a child. We have no partner for peace, and most people generally don't question it.
When Bibi said 9/11, this is really good for Israel after it happened.
Yes.
And I guess it was in the, 20 years or so from there, because that's when, this is the thing I remember the most. It's weird, the perspective on 9/11 from this is the amount of things where we're like, we got to be more like Israel. We got to do, we're airlines and everything like Israel does it. We got to go fight terror like Israel does. And it was a disaster for 20 years, just an absolute fucking disaster. And now another 9/11 comes up, like, we got to handle it. So now it's like, really? That's how you're going to handle it?
Right.
The way 20 years ago I thought was good because I didn't think about it at all and just was emotional. Then it really dawned on me what a bad idea that was.
And I know violence erupted on October 7th, but you know what else will be erupting this Sunday is laughter at the Levity Live Comedy Club.
Explosions of laughter will rock the comedy club.
That's right. So if you'd like to come see, I've got at least 15 minutes of new Israel-Palestine comedy chunks.
If you live in Northern California, please move to Southern California to see the show. We beg you.
We thank you. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets. We're going to be there this Sunday. Go get your tickets. Are there tickets available at the yet? There are. It's this big room, right? It's like 400 seats or something. Have you ever been to that club, Kurt?
Which one?
Levity Live in Oxnard.
I feel like I did, but I don't remember.
Okay, I haven't been there yet. I played the Ventura Harbor Comedy Club. This was about a 200-seater. That was raucous when I played that play. Remember that? That's how crazy it was.
My God!
It was raucous. I remember I showed. They were.
I'm imagining a cowboy fight where a guy gets slid along the bar and bottles in his face, and the piano player's playing and guns. Is it like that?
Yeah. I started to play a video of, I think, Meghan McCain. Or something, and they started screaming. Oh, yeah! Like
they couldn't stand it.
It's like the Blues Brothers movie. You have to perform behind chicken wire.
I had to turn off that video, or I was going to lose control of the room.
Is she that fat? Come on.
It's not about. We're doing live comedy shows in Oxnard, California, Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Nebraska, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Michigan, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, and Boston. Plus, we're going to put a date in Edmonton, Canada, plus Vancouver. See ya. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.